I'm just on my way back home up to Taliban, which is the usual thing. Everybody will be incredibly interested to know that. But while I was waiting outside the hardware store for Beth, got a bit murky there, waiting for Beth, and I'm thinking how different life is here. We'd just been to the house 93, which we're doing for orphans. Now, it's very interesting that a little while ago I mentioned to Beth that we started to lose our income when we started to do the charity. Now this is a great irony, because the powers of the haters all goes focusing on the fact that we have made money out of scamming all of those poor people. The truth is quite the opposite, because we were doing incredibly well on our channel. We were gaining, believe it or not, we were gaining 1,000 or more. In fact, I think it might even be at one point 2,000 in a day, new subscribers. So we were making money. Now, let me wise you up on something. When people in the Philippines who are running a blog are saying, or they're talking about people who are vlogging in the Philippines making money, if you take it as dollars, it's really a pittance, it's slave labor. But when you say that $1 is worth 51 pesos, now you're talking. So in this economy, in this exchange from the dollar, we were doing great, but it only amounted to a few $1,000s a month. So it made me realize that in fact we were doing much better when we were talking about our simple little life. Now, when we first started doing our vlog, it was because we were building, or we had gotten to a point where we couldn't go any further on our house, our little red house, which I was building on my own, because we really didn't have the money to be able to have workers come in. And apart from that, because the place that we were building it up on the hill was so isolated, it was not accessible by truck, so we couldn't get materials delivered in the normal fashion. So I decided that I'd build the house of metal stud. Now a piece of metal stud is just a few pounds, can be lifted easily even by an old man. So that's what that is. But I don't want to get into talking about building the house, because my realization was that when Beth and I were talking, and we were talking about the fact that that things had gone down, we had lost out. We were working more. We were working 24/7. Believe it. We were working 24/7 on getting help to people who otherwise would be living in the most wretched conditions. And the result of that was 92 houses, going on 93. I've just been down to see 93 now. I also went to see the police station, which we're doing a cover, a seating area for people who are waiting to have appointments with the police for whatever reason. So, if we can jump then to having lunch. We were having lunch. Now at the moment we have lunch and we eat the necessary food to survive, and we do that at PP Coffee, which is a wonderful restaurant, right? And the people there treat us literally so well. we feel like royalty, and they're so nice to us. I'm sure that it's not just because we're us, it's because they're wonderful people. So I think that that's the reason, and they treat everybody like that. So if you get a chance to call into Talabon and you need to eat, PP Coffee would be the place. Now, one of the things that makes it necessary for us to go there is because it has Wi-Fi, and our other favourite restaurant, Vidasto, has lost its Wi-Fi for some reason or other, and the signal on our hill is so poor that we have to go to PP Coffee to upload our videos. Now, when we were there today, we met an expat, Gary, and his wife, and he confirmed something that I'd felt, and that is that even though from a humanitarian point of view we are making people think again about helping, we're helping a lot of people who are, as I said, have been living without hope, in the most wretched conditions. It is definitely true. Children are going without food. It's a tough scene here. Not everywhere, not everybody is doing this, but there are sections of the community which I tend to think of as forgotten, and they're the ones living in ghettos, and the ghettos are where the high tide comes in. And of course, we're in Bohol. It's a small island. It really is a very small island. It's next to Cebu, which in itself is not a huge island. Well, anyway, we met Gary, and Gary said the same thing as I'd been saying. He said that I used to watch more when you were doing your everyday things, and I used to watch that. He said, and then I didn't watch quite as much, quite being the operative word, I didn't watch quite as much when you started to do the charity work, the non-profit, he called it. And that's exactly what I had been saying, but that I didn't think anybody would believe me. But when we were doing our fun things, like riding a Carabao called 007 James Bond, and doing stuff like that, falling about in the rice field and getting covered in mud, it was light-hearted. It was the simple life. And I realize more and more that the difference in the life here is profound, in a way which you have to be here, not just to be here. That's not enough. You have to be here, and you have to be paying attention. That doesn't make me all wise, but I have been listening a lot and looking a lot, and the difference in what makes the Philippines and the Filipino people, the difference is incredible. You would not be able to grasp it unless you come. And even then, I've heard expats talk about, one particular expat said, he quoted Aquino, the late Aquino, President Aquino, who apparently said that that Filipinos like their slavery, that they are slaves, and that they like their slavery. And he was really saying that he agreed with that, that the Filipinos they're not trying to improve themselves, they're not trying to get out, they're not trying to get better. And in some ways that may appear to be the case. But there's something in the Filipino psyche that is different to you and me, if you're a foreigner and you're watching this. And if you're a Filipino or a Filipina and you're watching this, you will not understand what I'm talking about. except that you do know that Filipinos are different. And all of this came about from the simplest thing, and this is what being here in the Philippines means. That these realizations that are profound, I'm not glorifying that, but they are profound in that they're deeply ingrained into the Filipino way of living. That I'm sometimes stuck for words for how to express this in a way which can't be misinterpreted. But they're 200 years back in their thinking, and the time that it's going to be where they will be out of this is the time when they won't be Filipino. We all know that time and the changes that come with time are exponential. They go off and they start creeping up like this, creeping up, but then there reaches a point where it just goes like that. I think they call it the bell-shaped curve. For the Filipinos to reach that, it will be a long time. But that's not everybody. We've got people like our friend Edgar. Edgar and his good lady have already moved out of that. And because the change that they go through is actually tiny, and yet it takes them on that upward graph, which is just soaring through the ceiling. And they've become wealthy. All it takes in the Philippines is that you have a little brain or common sense or some willingness to work, a work ethic, and work damn hard, and you will become so wealthy. Does it work for expats? It doesn't seem to work for expats unless they come in with a lot of money and they start something that gives Filipinos what they want. Now, I get so many people that write to me and tell me that they're thinking of setting up a fish breeding, or the fish ponds, and going to that, and that they're going to be pig farmers. Because I am none of those things, I come from a life history of being an artist. Sometimes to my cost. If I'd concentrated on doing what other people have told me, at one time people could not understand why I didn't pursue being a contractor in California. And when I looked at, they do a series of educational tapes which will take you to the point where education-wise you know what to do to be able to pass the test to get your contractor's license. And it was all about money. And whatever my other failings are, and there are one or two, money is not the answer for me, and never really has been. Admit that I wanted to be famous, I wanted to be a great singer, I wanted to be a great trombone player. Other things which were non-monetary got in the way, and so I never succeeded at any of those, even though I was regarded as being reasonably talented enough that I could have made it if I had placed the focus on that. So here I am, and I'm in the Philippines, and I'm sitting at the hardware store waiting for Beth, and Beth is in ordering materials for one of our two projects. And I'm looking at Filipino life passing me by. So that's tricycles with 3 or 4 people in them, tricycles with 20-foot lengths of bamboo, which they use for the outriggers on boats. They're dragging them along on the back of the tricycle, and I've done this myself on motorcycles, not so much in town, which is where we were, but out in the outer limits of town. You see people on motorcycles, and they've tied lengths of rebar, 20-foot lengths of rebar, to the back of the bike. I did this when we were building, and and then they drag them along, and people get along with that. And it made me realize, when I've met the guys who, if you just changed the background, if you could do a Photoshop, a real life Photoshop, and take away the background that you're seeing this guy in, he would be riding he would be smoking a cigar, and he would be riding a Harley Davidson, and would be someone that you would not argue with. He'd have a ponytail with salt and pepper hair, and it would be back and tied in the back there, and he would be a tough customer. And he is there, and I've seen many, and they complain about the nanny state in America. Now, take away America as the key word and put the UK, Australia, Germany, any of these places, and the key to what these people have fled from, and we have all of us fled. Somebody accused me of that. I said, you ran away. Damn right I ran away, and I'm not ashamed of that. I ran away because it was a thing for me to do, not for everybody. The life that Beth and I live is not for everybody. It's not going to keep everybody happy. It's our passion, and it keeps us happy. And even then, we often feel like running away. As you know, we haven't so far. So here I am, back at the hardware store, and I'm facing the road, and Filipino life is all going by. And I'm looking at motorcycles with 3 and 4